All right, so we're going to welcome to the show Rich Keefe. Rich is the host of the Dale and Keefe pod radio show on WEI from 2 to 6 on Monday through Friday. He's the genius behind Kiefer Madness and Keefe's Keys. He is also the host of the Dork podcast with Ryan Davey. He is similar to Tom Hardy in the fact that he was a radio personality on WEI and the Sports Hub, and he was also a standout tight end at Hobart College, of course. Rich, welcome on the show.
Wide receiver. I was wide receiver. I'm not big enough to be a tight end. I just don't want people thinking I shrunk so much. I was a wide receiver. A bad wide receiver. That's all that I was. But thank you for that intro. I didn't realize I was the mastermind behind so many great segments.
It's true. I mean, it's true.
Good. Right.
Well, I don't know. The jury's still out on how Dale feels about Keefe's Keys, but
I think it's pretty certain he hates it. So I think it's pretty clear how he feels.
I feel like that makes it much better, to be honest with you.
I do think it's a little bit better when we don't agree.
So, well, let's get into what's going on right now. And again, I just told Rich off the air that, originally we're going to talk Patriots, and then it's all NBA all the time. And, Woj just taking over Twitter again. And so I guess the first most pressing issue, I know you are president of the New England charter fan club of the LeBron fan club.
Yeah, I love him.
And so I just wanted to see what your thoughts were about LeBron going to LA.
Well, first of all, I don't think people are making a big enough deal that he has bolted from Cleveland again. Like, people were just so prepared for it. They were so used to it. Like, after he lost in the finals, they were like, well, like, what do you want him to do? Like, you want him to stay in Cleveland? It's like, well, Cleveland's actually a better team than LA right now. Kevin Love is the second best player on Cleveland. The second best player on LA is what? Kyle Kuzma, I guess. Like, he's a nice young player, and they're in the Western Conference. Like, they're going to be terrible next year. They haven't added anybody else yet. All these other guys that we thought were going to go play there, like Paul George or Chris Paul or Boogie Cousins or Kawhi Leonard, none of those guys are there. So LeBron bolts on Cleveland for the second time, and then they sign. Everybody's been saying it, but the island of misfit toys. They're like, let's bring in JaVale McGee and Lance Stevenson and Rondo. Like, their team is going to be must watch because they're going to kill each other by like the 20th game of the season. Throw in LeVar Ball with this kid there. Like, it is just absolute chaos. And everybody's just giving LeBron a free pass. They're like, yeah, he's going to LA. Like, what can you blame him for? You're like, what? Like, everybody made a big deal about him going back to Cleveland. And you're like, okay, that's nice, but only if it ends there. If he goes again, like, we can't give him credit for going back. I'm certainly not going to give him credit for going back.
Right.
So I can't stand LeBron. I am happy that he went to LA though, because he's out of the East. It's better for the Celtics, and he's just going to get smoked by Golden State and Houston and everybody else out there.
Well, I think it's interesting because he's clearly punting this year because there's no way that team, even if they were able to acquire Kawhi, which I think they're going to, whether it's this year or next year. Even if they did get Kawhi this year, they still have no shot against the Warriors, and they probably wouldn't beat even the Rockets in a 7-game series. And so, like, I think he's punting on this year, but he's trying to kind of build. I guess he's almost looking at it as like a second GM, where he's trying to build, the next dynasty in LA, and so he can kind of play out his years there. Because remember, he's 34, and he has there's no opt-outs in his deal, so it's a 4-year deal with no opt-outs. So that's straight through 4 years till he's 38. And, at that point, it'd be 20 years in the league with a ton of tread in his tires. And so.
Oh, yeah. He's played more minutes than anybody over the last several years. Like, and it's not even close. Like, he's played like multiple seasons based off of all the playoff games that he's played. And it's weird for a guy that has made it to the finals 8 straight years, going in a direction where he's clearly not going to make it this year, despite some of the Vegas odds, which are out of their minds. Having them be like the second favorite in the West or just the second favorite overall is insane. But in Cleveland, I still think the Celtics would have passed him by, and I'm sure that's what he was thinking too, as he was struggling to beat them without Irving and Hayward. But Cleveland for one more year gives him a better chance, and even Philadelphia gives him a better chance. Like, they would have a much better chance of getting back to the finals. But clearly he wants to go to LA. It sounds like his kid's going to be playing high school basketball up there. He probably wants to do more movies. There is something about like the Lakers franchise and everything that's what they've done. So just, I can't believe, like, nobody's calling him out for it. Nobody's saying a word about it. It's like, what is the good reason to go to LA? I don't know what it is.
No, you're totally right. I mean, realistically, it's just that he wants to go to LA. It's not like he has a better chance to win a championship or it's a better team or anything like that. And they have some good young guys. I'm not excited about any of their good young players. I guess Kuzma's fine, but like the rest of their young players are like Brandon Ingram,
okay.
Like, please.
Yeah.
Like LeVar, like Ball.
Lonzo Ball. I'm all set.
You know, it's whatever, dude. I do hope though. I need a reality show of the Lakers.
With the Lakers.
Like
if they could do Hard Knocks, if they could do a Hard Knocks NBA style and follow the Lakers around just for a couple of months until the whole thing implodes, like that would be worth it. That'd be great.
Oh, you need LeVar there though. LeVar's got to be at every practice. He's got to be on the sideline of practice.
Yeah. And then it's like Luke Walton's going to get fired. What? 10 games in, 20 games in, he's gone. He's no chance.
Luke Walton was drafted 31 picks after LeBron. Like LeBron's like, get out of my face, buddy.
Just a lot of respect for him. Yeah.
What a joke. So, anyways, that should be fun. If nothing else, it should be fun watching the Lakers implode while the Celtics are competing for a championship. So that'll be enjoyable. You did mention the Warriors. Boogie Cousins goes to the Warriors on a 1-year, $5 million deal. And, you know, I know you tweeted out the video of the what the heck is it? What the heck is
the murders?
Yeah, the happy. Yeah, that's what I was dying because if he had come to the Celtics, man, I mean,
love Boogie Cousins.
Jesus.
Not everybody likes him because he's a bit nuts. He's been on a lot of bad teams, and I get that part of it. But he's so talented. Like he's insane. Like when he was healthy last year, the Pelicans, he was averaging like 25, 13, and 5. Guy's nuts. Like he's a great scorer. Right. He's a big. There's not many good big men in the league. He's one of a handful of them. I love him, but he's coming off an Achilles injury, and so I'm sure the offers weren't crazy for him. By the sound of it, like nobody was really offering him anything.
Yeah.
So he and his agent reached out to the Warriors and were like, "Hey, what about playing for the mid-level?" Because it makes sense. Because I know he says he wants to play at the start of the season, but if he can't, he can take his time. You know, you're going to get a deep playoff run, and he doesn't have to, like, if he doesn't score 25 points per game, everybody's going to look at it and say, well, what do you want him to do? They got all these other scorers there.
Right.
So as long as he looks somewhat good, wins a championship, I think it was a genius move by him.
Absolutely. 100%. And that's the thing is that, and not only that, but he also gets that, like you say, the rehab time. And then even when he comes back, they're like, you know, the Warriors themselves are like, dude, you know, let's play you 5 minutes here and 10 minutes there. And we're not going to rush you back because we don't need you to get into the playoffs. You know, we're going to be the number 1 seed no matter what.
Regardless, yeah.
So you get into the playoffs and then you do your thing once you're there. It's the absolute best situation for him. And I actually think he fits better in Golden State than he does in Boston. Because for him at least, because if you put him in Boston, and look, not saying that Al Horford is better than DeMarcus Cousins. Clearly, right. Al Horford, DeMarcus Cousins is way better. But I think the Celtics have a pretty solid starting 5. So you're going to have to take somebody out of that starting 5. It's probably Jaylen Brown, right? You take Jaylen Brown out, and then Hayward shifts to the 2, and then everyone shifts down 1, and Cousins plays center, or maybe you just take a Horford and put Cousins at center. But someone from that decent starting 5 has to come out, whereas now the Warriors are just like, oh, we had some schmuck play in center, and now it's going to be Boogie Cousins.
Yeah, so the guy who really loses out is like Andre Iguodala, because even though he didn't start every game, like that was their lineup of death, and he would be out there, and that's how they would close games. And they still might do that, like depending on how healthy Cousins is. Yeah, it would have been a great like problem for Brad Stevens to have because he would have had to figure out, all right, who's staying in the game? Is Brown hot today? If he is, maybe he's still in, and you take somebody else out like Horford or whatever. But I would have been interested to see how they used him, but yeah, without him, I think the Celtics will be just fine. They should still cruise through the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, you would hope at least. I mean, unless barring something insane happening. I mean, last year, they lost their 2 best players and still went to the Eastern Conference Finals and probably should have beaten the Cavs.
Right.
So 2 more guys. The Kawhi situation with him, man. He's come out and said that he won't play this year if he's in San Antonio, or at least that's the rumor. But I can't imagine the guy sitting out another season. However, the way it works in the NBA is just like whoever gets him is who gets him. And I can see the Lakers saying, well, we don't care if he plays or not. What difference does it make? We're just going to sign him and he'll be fine. But would he really do that? And then when the Spurs then have to turn around, they're going to have to trade him somewhere. And who the hell is going to give anything for him?
Well, it seems like the Lakers, I mean, the latest you heard about him was the Clippers he could be interested in, or the Philadelphia 76ers, which would be, a bad sign for the Celtics if he wanted to go there. because one report says he wants to play with LeBron, another report says he does not want to play with LeBron. So I can't figure this guy. I mean, he's got to be, you know, we were making fun of like Rondo and McGee and Stevenson, but add Kawhi Leonard to that list. Like, what to expect from him? Not playing last year with a quad injury for the Spurs of all teams. So
I know
I don't want to deal with it with the Celtics and those other teams that do trade for him. You got to be pretty careful, because if you give up too much for him, he could easily walk away in a year, and then you're left, you know, with nothing. And then after that, if he sits out this year, going back to that scenario, who wants to pay him a ton of money? Like, what are you doing? You just sat out 2 years? Like, I'm not right. No, that sounds like a guy I want to give $100 million to. Like, no way.
And how could he not be fined for like the whole year? Like, if you tried to pull that crap in the NFL and they would just fine you every single game check, like, he's just going to not play.
It's got to be like a weird gray area, because he did have an injury, and like he had like a diagnosed like quad injury, and you're like, okay, right. But then he gets cleared in March, but he still wasn't comfortable to play, and you're like, well, what? Like it doesn't make sense.
It's just bizarre situation. I think too. I think he's doing this because he wants more sponsorships. He wants his name out there more. He wants to be like, you know, all these guys have shoes, and you know, Paul George and all these guys. And it's like Kawhi looks at it and is like, nobody even knows who I am. You know, no one even knows what my voice sounds like. And so it's like, you know, but at the same time, if he's going to be like this and he's not playing, it's not helping. Who the hell is going to sign him?
Right. Yeah, so, and I think in the NBA too, like you can really make the most of it. Like they make a big deal out of the LA market or like the New York market, but Russell Westbrook is pretty damn popular. You know, he's played his whole career in Oklahoma City, and everybody knew who Paul George was in Indiana and Oklahoma City. So if Leonard just played, and I don't know what his deal is with Popovich, like who knows? I'm sure there's another side to the story. I don't know what it is, but if Leonard wanted to be super famous, he could be. Like basketball players are worldwide famous. Like he could be. He would have to market himself. He'd have to play first of all, and he'd have to market himself a little bit differently.
Right. That's a good point. It's like the Patriots situation on steroids. You know, there's a tension between Brady and Belichick. You know, but so and then the last question I have, NBA related wise, Jimmy Butler. Would you? And I don't know if this would even be possible, but if Minnesota wants to trade him. Now, supposedly he wants out. So as Minnesota, you know, they may look at it and say, we need to get him out. Do you think it works in anyone's benefit? Jaylen Brown, Terry Rozier, and then I think, I mean, you know, you got to make the money work because you're both over the salary cap. If they did a Greg Monroe sign and trade, 1 year, $12 million deal, it makes the money work, and you're giving them an expiring contract, and then you're sending them at least a lottery pick. Now, maybe 2, I don't know, but you're sending them at least a lottery pick, whether it's the Sacramento pick next year or the Memphis pick. You know, I called in the show a few weeks ago and said that I thought the Memphis pick might even be better than the Sacramento pick.
Maybe.
Sacramento's got some guys going, and so, you know, you don't know what that's going to look like, obviously, but, you know, whichever one you decide to give up, you know, is that enough to get him, and would you give it up for him?
I would give that up for him. I'm not in love with Jimmy Butler, because remember his name came up a lot, you know, last year, the year before he even went to Minnesota, and there was a lot of talk, you know, before they drafted Tatum, like that pick, like would you give that pick up for Paul George or for Jimmy Butler, or I think Boogie Cousins, like all those names kept coming up, and Jimmy Butler was one of those guys for me that I thought he was like a good gatekeeper. It was like, if he's better than Jimmy Butler, I'll trade the pick for him. And if it's Jimmy Butler or worse, I won't trade the pick for him. But in that scenario that you laid out, Jaylen Brown has grown on me. I didn't love the pick at the time, but he has certainly outperformed what I thought he was going to be already. And so, but if you're talking about Jaylen Brown, Rozier, Monroe, just for the sake of argument for Butler, and now you have a starting lineup of Irving, Butler, Hayward, Tatum, and Horford, yeah, you're better. Like Jaylen Brown could maybe one day be better than Jimmy Butler, but today he's not. And so if you're going to try to win a championship the next couple of years, yeah, I'd rather have Butler than Brown.
Right. And in that situation, you get to keep Smart as well, which I think is important.
Yeah, I'd like better than Rozier. Yeah, for sure.
Well, maybe not. I shouldn't say better than Rozier, but he's a better fit.
They're Rozier, different, but I think he's more. Yeah, I think he's more important for the Celtics.
Right. So we'll see. It should be fun. I mean, like you say, the Celtics should walk into the finals. Realistically, I mean, there's nowhere else in the East that really scares you. You know, unless Philly acquires a guy like Kawhi and he goes back to what he did. You know what I mean? But beyond that, there's no one else in the East that can push them. I think, Milwaukee's good, but they're at least a player away. I think Middleton showed a lot, and Giannis obviously is Giannis, but like they're still another really good, talented player away from being able to compete with the Celtics.
Yeah, Milwaukee's got the one really good player. Toronto's got a good team, not a great team, but a good team. Yeah, like Washington has a good backcourt. I mean, that's it. That's actually, you know what? Indiana's not bad. Indiana's got a pretty good team.
With Oladipo.
And they played well against the Celtics last year. So Indiana, I would never in a million years pick them to win a series against them. But that's a decent team though.
Right. Yeah, if they could get another guy there.
Yeah,
Now they got something going on, right? So let's switch just quickly to the NFL. Edelman's appeal obviously gets denied. The NFL, I'll tell you what, man, they go to extreme lengths because I said, okay, Tuesday at 5:00, the Edelman appeal ruling is going to come out because that's what the NFL does. Let's bury it. And all day long, they release this guy suspended, and that guy suspended, and this guy suspended, and this guy suspended. And then at 7:30 at night on July 3rd, they were like, oh, by the way, Julian Edelman suspension's upheld. And it's just like, are you kidding me? It's just so freaking NFL that hurts. And it's just like, my God, dude. But I mean, I saw it coming the whole way. I mean, I'm sure you did too. Like, I figured there was no way he could overturn it.
No.
I talked about it last week on the show. Just the only way he could do it was if he proved that it was mishandled, which obviously he couldn't do.
Right.
And then so therefore, gets upheld.
Yeah. So, I mean, now the question is he going to keep pushing this thing like we've seen other guys do, whether it's Ezekiel Elliott or Tom Brady? I would guess that he has even less of a chance than those guys. And we know how that ended for both of them because there's a little bit more gray area with their stuff. Whereas his, even though it's a little weird because they don't know exactly what he tested for, it flagged the test. So it's a drug test. And those guys, with the exception of like Richard Sherman, they all get popped. It's 4 games. See you later. So I think, unfortunately, that's probably what it's going to be for him too.
Right. I mean, the only way I would think at least the only way he would ever kind of progress it would be if he felt like he could prove that they had tampered with the sample. And then in that case, if you're in a court of law, the court of law says, well, if he didn't do this, this, and this, then the sample's thrown out because, it wasn't handled properly. But obviously he couldn't do that. I mean, it is difficult when you're appealing to the guy that gave you the suspension in the first place. But,
it's quite a process.
but if the court of law will sit there and say, well, the process wasn't handled correctly, and because of that, the sample's thrown out, almost like, if I commit, a crime and you illegally search my car and find something, well, the search is thrown out. So it doesn't matter what you found because it was illegal to do that. And so that's the only way I see anything like that happening. But again, I think that Goodell's smart enough to know if he can prove that, then I'm going to overturn it. He did it in the Sherman case because you don't want to go to court and lose if that's the case.
Well, then the other thing is, I don't know how the timing how that plays out, but if he starts to appeal and then he starts the season, it's like one of those things. Remember, we had the same conversation with Brady the whole time. It's like, all right, so what if all of a sudden week 12, they're like, all right, nope, you're suspended. And then you got to miss the rest of the regular season. Like, especially with Edelman coming off the injury, like you want him playing game 1, obviously, but I don't think it's the worst thing in the world if he comes back, a guy in his 30s off an ACL injury, and now week 5, and like now come playoff time, he's only played 12 games instead of the 16. Like, I know it's a kind of a blemish on his career, but I think for the team, I don't think it's that big a deal.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I'm actually with you on that. I think that it's not that it's a blessing in disguise, but I'd rather have him for the last 4 instead of the first 4.
Oh, absolutely.
The one thing to keep in mind, though, that I don't think I haven't heard many people talk about, week 5 is a Thursday night game. So he's not allowed in the facility until Monday morning.
Yeah, quick turnaround.
And, I mean, he's been there forever. But, but even still, getting acclimated with the player, with the new guys and everything like that, he has a short week. So it's almost like he suspended 5 games instead of just 4.
But you can already see it too, though. His first game back, first play of the game is going to go right to him. 10 yards, like guaranteed first play right back to him.
That is a good point. So, all right. So I think that's it. Sports-wise, I do have 2 other things I wanted to talk to you about. So I had the 3-minute drill. I talk about, people that listen to the show know 3-minute drill is basically 3 minutes on just anything randomly. Could be, movies or sports or whatever. So, but this week I'm doing the MCU versus Game of Thrones. So basically, for those of people, and I'm going to explain it again after this, but this is obviously, spoiler zone. If I had a sweet goo sounder for the spoiler. I'd sound it right now, but I don't. But yes, if you have not seen season 7 of Game of Thrones, if you have not seen up to Infinity War, just skip over this a few times. But basically, the premise is that MCU or Game of Thrones, one of them you have to give up and never watch or hear about ever again. So you can't know what happened to the people that that went away, and you can't see any of the new movies. You can't know anything. Forget about watching it. You can't even know what happens, right? Okay. You can't know what happens in Game of Thrones. You can't know, about any of the spinoffs or anything like that. So
let me ask you this: does my pre-existing knowledge is that still in play? Like so? Yes. Okay,
so you have
remember everything up to now.
Exactly.
Okay,
which I think almost makes it worse.
Yeah, true. But then you really enjoyed both, so you wouldn't want to give up all of your experience with one.
Right.
So I can only pick one to keep up with the rest of the way.
Right. And this includes, by the way, like Game of Thrones, like there's a few spin-offs already scheduled, so you can continue watching those spin-offs as well, whereas you'd have to give up those spin-offs if you chose the MCU.
So I love both, obviously. I think I'm going to go with the MCU as the one that I would want to keep watching the rest of the way. I want to see what happens after Infinity War. I'm going to be seeing Ant-Man this weekend. They got all these sequels planned out.
Right.
Like they might be tying Venom into the universe somehow. Like they have so many movies still planned, and I'm fascinated to know where they're going to go with it. They're going to have like 3 movies a year still for the next several years. Yeah. Whereas Game of Thrones, I'm dying to see how it ends, but they only have 6 episodes in this final season. The spinoffs could definitely be hit or miss.
Right.
So I think there's going to be so much more. I'm guaranteed more hours of entertainment with the MCU.
That's a good point.
I think that's why I would pick that.
That's a good point. I think the hours of entertainment is definitely something you got to take into consideration. The only thing that is pulling me towards Game of Thrones is the fact that you have no idea what's going to happen. Right? In the MCU, I feel like they're going to win. Like you've got superheroes, like they're going to win. Like the superhero story isn't going to end with everyone dying.
But whereas I don't think either everyone might come back, but everyone's not going to make it out of Avengers 4.
So I think you're probably right about that.
What you're doing is you're taking 6 episodes of Game of Thrones, which will all be awesome, including the endings. We'll find out who's on the throne at the end. So that's super important. And then you compare that to Ant-Man and the Wasp, Avengers 4, Black Panther 2, Spider-Man 2, Captain Marvel, Doctor Strange 2, whatever they ultimately like spin it off, Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Like you're missing a ton of stuff. Plus, Daredevil season 3, Jessica Jones season 3, all that stuff.
They're not the MCU. They're not the MCU.
No, trust me, I know, but they claim to be for a second. But all that stuff, I think there's just too much of it. They still have so many, like, even though it feels like they can't go forever, they've planned this thing out for like years to come.
I do agree with you. I think that you're probably right about that. I will say, the big thing for me with Thrones is that I could see a scenario where the White Walkers win.
And you think the Night King could be the one on the throne? Because I think that would be. I was talking about this with my buddies the other day. Just Night King being on the throne at the end, and then it just cuts would be incredible, I think.
So now, first of all, they did say they're going to be full length, like feature length episodes. So even though it's only 6, they said like they could be all 2 hours long.
Yeah, hour and a half at least, right? Yeah.
Right. And so so now you're getting basically 6 movies, right? Now, obviously it's not the same as, the different stories, whatever they're telling. But how about this for the end scene? This is one of the things that I've been thinking of. So they go fight the Great War, because obviously we know now Cersei isn't going to fight the Great War. Okay, so they go, Jon Snow and Khaleesi fight the Great War. They lose. Okay. And final scene of the final episode, Cersei's sitting on the throne, and the White Walkers are breaking in, and they get into the throne room, and it's just a close up of Cersei's face with like a little smirk on her face, like I don't give a shit. Like I'm on the throne at the end. It doesn't matter, and it just fades to black. And you're like, oh my god, like
that'd be great.
Because she's just the most psychotic person in the entire world, and you're just like, she's just like, I don't even care. Like you said, I won, even if I lost, I beat everyone living, and so what?
The only thing that would make me mad in Game of Thrones is if they tried to have a happy ending, because that show does not have happy endings. And so
Right.
if it's like a Jon Snow, Daenerys, Tyrion, like triple crown winner, I'd be like, out of here, get out of here.
Right.
Everybody has to die. Like everybody has to die.
I agree with you 100%. And that's, he even said, Martin said at the beginning, or like, at season 4, something like that. He's like, if you're expecting a happy ending, you haven't been paying attention.
I hope, yeah, right. I hope he sticks with it.
Well, but now he's not in control.
It's out of his hands. You're right. But those other guys, they know what they're doing. Those guys know what they're doing.
Yeah, I can't wait, dude. I'm so excited.
I
can't believe we have to wait till freaking April. Although we're like more than halfway there at this point.
That's true. We're less than a year out. That's a good point.
So, it's like brutal. But all right, so last question before I let you go. So I'm the Weekend Warrior podcast. So Weekend Warrior, for people that are first-time listeners that don't know, is someone who competes even though they're not on a team. So they're playing ball with their friends, or they're in beer leagues, or whatever it is, hockey, basketball, baseball, softball, whatever it is. So your best Weekend Warrior moment.
Oh my God. Like, I'm definitely going to forget some because I play everything. Whenever I get a chance, I will play it. I am getting so much worse than I used to be, though. Like, so much worse. I think, like, as soon as I hit like 30, I got significantly slower and weaker and everything else. I would say a moment that I'll go with wiffle ball, and we were playing 3-on-3. This is back when I was at the Sports Hub, and it was me, Adam Jones, and Josh Deering, who was our producer, against Felger, Bertrand, and Billy Lanny. We played 3-on-3 in the parking lot, and we played 3 games, or we played like a best of 3 series. So we ended up playing 3 games. We lost, but we had each guy could only pitch 1 game, or he could only start 1 game, right? And so Josh went, I don't want to throw him under the bus, but he got shelled in like the first inning. So I went in the rest of the game, pitched a shutout from there on. Then I pitched the second game, however many innings we played, a complete shutout in wiffle ball. We had the screen and everything. I was throwing curveballs, knuckleballs. They couldn't hit shit off of me. I also homered in our win. So we were in the parking lot, so we hit it over the fence. It was a blast. So I guess that's one that comes to mind.
That's awesome. Now, when you play wiffle ball, do you have just the chair behind, or do you have like an official like screen behind?
So when I play normally like at my house or like at a buddy's, we just have a chair. But this time, Bertrand made one out of he had like the piping and like the duct tape and like the whole thing. So it was like an official like strike zone square. It was pretty sick.
That's awesome. That's awesome, because those are the worst when when you throw over some ridiculous curve and it like goes by your face and then hits the freaking, and you're like, are you shitting me? Like, that almost hit me.
Yeah. It's like goes behind you and lands in the chair. You're like, it's a strike. It's a strike.
Right. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Right. This one I told this one a few weeks ago, but actually, by the way, I have to tell you, I knew you were going to go wiffle ball because your old profile,
Twitter avatar with the bat. Yeah.
with the ball. But I had my buddy's high school graduation party. We were playing wiffle ball in his front yard, and he lives on kind of like a main road or whatever. And we were down 3 runs in the bottom of the, I don't even know how many innings we played, 7th, 9th, whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
And he's up first, and he like legged out, or actually no, he was up with 2 outs. He got up with 2 outs, and he like legged out a single. Like, he had to get it back to the pitcher, and he just like sprinted and got to first. And I come up with the bases loaded, and I hit a walk-off grand slam.
Nothing better.
Like, out into the street, and the kid that was pitching had to go get the ball. So he like hopped the fence, got the ball, chucked it, and was like, fucking, I'm going home, and just walked home. And he was like, that's it, I'm out.
That's the sweetest feeling.
It's like it's wiffle ball, but who cares?
It's competitive no matter what it is.
Right. That's it. So, all right, Rich. So before you leave, where can people interact with you?
A couple of places on Twitter, at Keefe21, and then at Dork Podcast. I'm pretty much the one that runs the Dork Podcast Twitter, so you can hit us up there. Hashtag Dork is on iTunes and Google Play and Stitcher and WEEI.com. And then, like you said, on with Dale 2 to 6 on WEEI. So all those different ways.
Nice. Yeah, I gotta say, I used to listen to Felger and Maz a lot, and I like Felger and Maz. I love your show.
Thank you.
It's fun. And it's not, you guys don't take yourself as seriously as they do. Like, they're just like,
I try not to, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I like it. And
it's
also
sports radio.
Right. And also, like, if you call Felger and Maz, it's like, if you get through, number
Yeah.
one, it's like an hour and a half wait to get on the air.
Yeah,
Where it's
ridiculous.
like, you know, if you want to call and, you know, get on with you guys, it's like, you know, 15, 20 minutes, maybe sometimes like a half an hour. But that's the way it should be. Like the point of it is the interaction. And with Felger Mazz, you really can't get much interaction. They have like the same callers that call in every single day.
Yeah, it's like the same people, like, and then they'll like leave those guys. Because I worked with them too, and like, you know, there'll be certain times where you think they're taking calls and they don't, and they'll just leave the lines on there. Where we also try to like let people know, hey, if we're not taking your call, we're not going to leave you sitting there for an hour. So we'll have the producer hop back on, be like, hey, they're kind of talking about something else, or hey, like we are going to get to you, like that kind of thing. Because, you know, you guys are taking time out of your day to give us a call too. So we don't want to just, you know, treat you like crap, like you're helping out the show. So I think oftentimes they can help.
Yeah, I like it. That's good. And, you know, I mean, Felger too has those like, you know how he is. Like he's just, you know, but that's his shtick, right? But
it's worked for him, man. Yeah.
He has those like where like I've called before and I'll like make a good point and then he'll just throw in some random question that has like almost nothing to do with what I said just to like get me off balance and like change the subject. And I'm like, wait a second, like I just made a good point here. Like what the hell, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So, if he's not prepared for it, he's not going to talk about it.
Right, exactly. So anyways, but yeah, listen to Dale and Keefe for sure because it's a great show. And I appreciate you coming on, man. It's your second time, so you're officially a recurring guest.
That's right.
So
very nice. Good.
Sweet. And I will make one of the live shows at some point.
Good.
I've you know, I've had some things come up those 2 days. I'm like, as soon as you posted the days, I'm like, seriously, like those 2 days, you know. But the next one hopefully will work. So
well, hopefully, I don't know if we'll do one before it, but one of the ideas we have is Game of Thrones season, whatever it is, 8 preview.
Yeah,
I think that's what I think we might do. That. No, that's not till like April, so maybe we'll have one before that. But that's definitely one we want to do.
Right, that'd be cool. That'd be fun. I'd clear my schedule for that one because I just you know. So
there's lots to talk about there. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So, anyways, well, thanks again for coming on. I appreciate it, and
no
have a good night. All right.
Yeah, you too.
All right.
Yeah.